Marie's vision is a brilliant episode of Everybody Loves Raymond. Definitely funny, but with a really emotional, challenging to watch moment as well. But it's absolutely brilliant. This is the 10th episode of season 7 of Everybody Loves Raymond. It's directed by Sheldon Epps, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode chronologically and share some thoughts. And it starts off with everybody coming back from a restaurant where Robert had announced that he is back with Amy. And Marie then goes to read the time, and she hesitates for a moment and then just declares it's time for dessert. And while she's off in the kitchen, the others are talking about her vision, and they realise that Marie needs to go and get her eyes tested. Her vision is getting worse, and the others, Frank, Robert, and Ray, are not going to tell her this, and there's no way she would wear glasses anyway. And Debra says that she's not going to put vanity before her sight, but the others definitely disagree. And when Marie comes back in, Debra asks her when she last saw an optometrist. While Robert and Raymond are busy shoveling tiramisu into their mouths, not wanting to be part of this conversation. And Marie Marie said something great, and then Frank said something better. Marie said, I have been told I have a Botticelli face, and one does not put glasses on a Botticelli face. Frank responds, I'd say you have more of a Mr. Potato Head face, which of course is a brilliant, harsh but brilliant response. And then there's a dirty fork. And Marie looks at this fork, she looks at it closely, and she realises it is dirty, and she washed it by hand. And we know Marie, we know that she would never have dirty cutlery in the house. And she goes off to the kitchen, and it was a really emotional moment. Not the most emotional moment, it gets even worse, but in that moment I think it's fair to say that she realised that yes, her vision is getting worse. And I think up until that point she'd completely tried to deny it. But if it's at the expense of her cutlery, then I don't think she's willing to let that slide. And while she leaves the room, Frank brings the atmosphere back up a little bit and says, let's hide. Which is cruel, but I think Frank did provide a lot of comic relief in this immediately after some more emotional moments. But then we get a moment with Frank later on that was even heavier. But I'll talk about that when we get there. We cut to some time later. Marie comes over to Ray and Debra's wearing her new glasses, and she looks great. I think they look brilliant. But unfortunately, now she can see everything in much more detail. She can see the dirt in Debra's house. She can see Debra's apparently thinner eyelashes and Raymond's greying hair. And now that she can see things more clearly, she's quite happy to point out these details. We then cut to the next day. It's Thanksgiving. It doesn't really feel like a very Thanksgiving-y episode compared with some of them, but nevertheless, it is Thanksgiving. And Ray has dyed his sideburns, and Debra is wearing a lot more eye makeup than usual. She does explain that it's the holidays and people like to wear more makeup at the holidays, and yeah, it doesn't look over the top. It looks nice, it looks decent, but obviously for Debra, it's more than she would usually wear, and it's very clear that she's concerned with what Marie has said about her apparently thin eyebrows, and Ray is very clearly concerned about his apparently greying hair. And then Amy and Robert come over, and I like the suspense here. I've seen this episode before, I've seen the show before, but it was a long time ago, and I could not remember what had happened. And Amy and Robert come over, and Robert is talking in a very strange way. And I genuinely had no idea what was going on. And eventually we find out that he had anti-wrinkle injections because of something Marie had said. And I was really impressed Brad Garrett managed to keep that voice up, because it seemed really difficult and he did a great job with it, and it was very, very funny. And then Marie comes over, of course, and everybody is on edge, terrified that Marie is going to point out something else. Amy does a very funny thing with her chin skin, and she's concerned Marie's going to point that out. And Marie learns about this, and she learns that people changed things about themselves because of something she said. And her response is a bit strange. She says all of the right things. She tries to support them, and she doesn't be nasty about any of these things. But at the same time, she was flattered that people would change their appearance because of things that she pointed out as being, I guess, potentially problems. But in my opinion, that's not why they did it. I don't think Debra, well, maybe to some extent, but for the most part, I don't think Debra put on eye makeup because she wanted Marie to think she had thicker eyelashes. I think she did it because suddenly she felt self-conscious around everybody. And the same with Robert. I don't think Robert got anti-wrinkle injections so that Marie could see he had a smoother face. I think it's because he now feels self-conscious that everybody else will notice his apparent wrinkles. So I don't agree that they did it for Marie, and I don't agree that Marie should feel happy that people care so much about her opinion. I think it's more so the fact that if Marie's pointing these things out, everybody else might be able to see these apparent flaws. So I don't agree with Marie's approach there, but I do think she said all of the right things in the moment. And then things get really intense because she's going on and on about how she can see things much more clearly now. And she's talking to Frank. And she says to Frank, this isn't the full quote, but it begins, "The total lack of communication, the total disregard for me as a human being, it's been this way for 45 years. And Frank asks her, if I'm so terrible, why do you stick around? And she says, maybe I won't, now that I see I'm in a loveless marriage. And Frank stands up, grabs her glasses, snaps them, and yells at her 3 times, a loveless marriage? And I burst into tears. Because I don't think we've ever seen Frank so affected by something anybody has said. I don't think I've had such a strong, immediate emotional response to anything Frank or anybody in the show has done. It was so powerful and unexpected and strong, and it was horrendous. I hated it. It was effective, but I hated it. And after shouting a loveless marriage 3 times, he leaves, and he seems genuinely heartbroken, angry, annoyed. It feels like in that moment he's feeling every negative emotion possible. And I feel like in that moment I felt all of that, and it was so horrendous, but again, so effectively done. And Marie follows Frank over the road, and he's eating dry bread, and then they make up quite quickly. I don't think the dialogue in that scene flowed as well as it could have done. I feel like something was maybe missing. I think the conversation maybe needed to be a bit deeper. I think we needed a bit more of an apology from me, maybe to some extent a bit more of an admission of feelings from Frank, but that is maybe expecting a bit too much of Frank. So I feel like this scene didn't flow as well as it could have done. But I like the fact that quite quickly they made up, and they decide that they'll finish the bread. Marie will make a sandwich because otherwise they have to eat Debra's cooking, so they better fill up on something good before they go and eat Debra's terrible Thanksgiving cooking. And then the final scene is Debra in bed asking Ray if her eyes look okay, and yeah, the scene was fine, not the best, not the worst, but in general it's a really strong episode. I think it's a good example of how your words can affect somebody, but also a great example of the fact that if you need your eyes tested, just going to get it done. Marie didn't want to, but she actually found a pair of glasses she really liked. She got a lot of compliments. She felt really great about the way she looked in them, and that was really lovely to see. And she felt great about her improved vision as well. And I say this as somebody who's overdue an eye appointment, so I should probably practice what I preach, but I do think that there is a very good message here, that if you are the Marie of the story, there are various ways that you should behave, and there are ways that you shouldn't behave, and I think it's absolutely brilliant, but also very, very emotional. Mostly with Frank. Initially with Marie realising that her vision is deteriorating, but then with Frank and his understandable outburst. Very challenging to watch, but for the right reasons. Marie's Vision is a really great episode of Everybody Loves Raymond.